Hey friends, how are you? I know that I have been gone for quite some time, but my current season of life is just not allowing me or giving me the time that I need to make videos all the time, which is completely fine. I've always just done YouTube for a hobby, and so we've just been really busy currently towards the end of the school year. I have a son graduating, by the time you see this, he's already graduated. And he's off to college soon. And we've had a couple things in the house that's kind of went sideways. We found out that in one of our bathrooms we had a window behind the shower that the previous owner had put back there. So that was all leaking, so we had to completely gut the bathroom all the way down to the floor joist and the studs, and we had to replace some of that stuff. Also, being that it is springtime here in the southeast part of Missouri, I would say, I decided to put a garden in. And I also wanted to update you guys. I did change my YouTube channel name to Sue Full of Grace. And the reason why I did that is for a couple reasons. For those of you guys who have been with me and have watched my videos for quite some time, you guys know that my dad passed away a couple years ago. And he used to call me Grace all the time, mostly because I was clumsy and I walked into walls and things like that. But here recently, more especially since we have moved into our house, I just have had this overwhelmingly disposition that I need to put in a garden. I always thought that I wouldn't be the one. I grew up on a farm. I grew up planting flowers and planting fruits and vegetables, and I never wanted, as an adult, to do that in my adult life. But here we are. I'm just being called to plant a garden and to keep going. So that's what I've been doing. This land was kind of just handed over. It was kind of grown up. There really wasn't like the flower beds and stuff. They all had like shrubs and dead shrubs and things like that in it, and we have just been working diligently and planting seeds, and I will share all that stuff with you guys directly. But first, I'm gonna take you back here and show you my garden. A couple things to keep in mind. I do live in Missouri, so my garden's probably only been in fully for a couple weeks, and that's because about the third week of April we had a snowstorm here. So there's a lot of things that we can't plant straight away in our gardens because we have to wait until after, you know, it stops frosting and getting cold. And just this year, it seemed to be like, we usually have one random snow before it starts to get warm here. And it just so happened that this year, it was the third week in April. It snowed here. So I'm gonna take you back here to the garden spot. Now, don't get excited, guys. We're just winging it. I cannot remember exactly how to plant everything from my childhood, but I'm just gonna wing it, friends. Okay, we're winging it this year. We're gonna see what works, and then hopefully next season we will get a little bit better. But we're gonna work through the process, and I wanted to kind of document the progress here at the house so that I have something to look back and see where I made mistakes. Oh, and look, I've also been redoing that bathroom, so I've got like drywall and stuff all over my dress here, so just disregard that. I didn't feel like changing, and I've been postponing making this video for quite some time, and I just said, you know what, I'm gonna do it today. We're gonna get it done, and we're gonna move along and do the thing, because I just keep procrastinating about making this video, and we don't need to do that anymore. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this garden, and we'll start the process of showing you where we start, and then by the end of the summer, the end of the fall season, we'll see how much we have progressed, okay? So I'm going to take you back here. Now, when I first started to come out here, it was quite a bit, it was overcast. Hey ladies! We got the boys chickens for Easter, and you can see they are waiting for a treat. They're more like pets, but they're probably only about 2 months old. But we got them so that we could get eggs. And what we did here is there was an old trampoline that was left on this property, and we just lined it. And my husband kind of built this contraption over here for a chicken coop. And we're just gonna see, we didn't want to go and spend a whole ton of money buying a chicken coop until we know whether or not for sure we are going to be able to keep chickens. I don't know. The only thing I know about keeping chickens, y'all, is my brother used to lock me in the chicken coop whenever I was a kid, and he left me in there for hours and hours. He was so mean to me. But we are going to see about how we're gonna go about raising chickens, and then we'll move forward with the chicken coop at some point, but we're gonna make sure we can do it first, you know what I mean? I just wanted to share with you guys, okay, this is like, we have this gate. This is an old garage, which we eventually will turn into like a mother-in-law suite or a little cottage, so that when people come to visit us, they have a place to stay. But if you are looking down, like, our property goes way far back, but I did only set up a couple of these raised beds this year. But I did want to share with you guys how stinking pretty is the honeysuckle. I'm about 99% sure that this is a Japanese honeysuckle, and whenever we first moved out here and I knew I was going to be putting my garden out here, I had cut so much dead stuff off of this fence line here, and now I kind of regret it, because I know that now that this honeysuckle has bloomed, that it was honeysuckle that I cut down. And I'm a little disappointed about it. Disregard, this grass is pretty tall. It's been raining here for about 3 days, so we haven't been able to cut grass. But hopefully it dries up some, and we can get that grass taken care of this weekend. Look how pretty it is, and it smells just wonderful. So my hope is to keep the honeysuckle all along here. Look at it, it's just up in that tree and everywhere. I'm just gonna let the honeysuckle grow, just because I love it, and we're just gonna let it do its natural nature thing. There is also a whole bunch of Japanese roses that are wild here. Well, they probably weren't wild at some point. Somebody must have planted them here at some point, but I believe that this is all Japanese roses that's got those little white petals that almost look like blackberry petals. But we will probably end up taking those wild roses down, because we're not a big fan of the thorns. Thorns only belong on blackberry bushes, if you know what I mean. Okay, so we made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 raised beds, and they look quite high, and they are quite high, but hear me out. We have this ground here is not completely level, so I wanted to be able to protect the plants a little bit. Plus we live out in the middle of nowhere, so there will be deer and all kinds of things, and eventually back behind that chicken coop all the way around here, we will put a fence line in here to try to keep the critters and things out. But I did raise beds, and this is like pallet wood. My husband made these. We got the pallet wood for free. And again, just like the chicken coop, we wanted to do something that was fairly cheap, because I can't remember really how to garden or what the exact process is going to be for me, what it's going to look like for us here. So I kind of have to relearn how to do all the gardening. So for me, The easiest thing that I could think of to do was to plant everything by seed, mostly because I don't have a greenhouse set up out here, although I will probably get a greenhouse going in the fall season, and then that way I'll have it and be able to start plants through when it comes time in the winter to start plants. But so some of my stuff is a little bit further behind because I did plant everything over here in the garden from seed except for my blueberries, raspberries, and blackberry bushes. So eventually we may move to another section out here in the meadow, or what I call a meadow. I don't even know what you would really call that, where we'll do in-ground planting. But for now, for this season, we are just keeping it, let's see, can I turn the light down on this some? Is that up or down? We're just gonna keep it, is that better? Maybe that's too dark, I don't know. We're just gonna keep it in the raised beds for now, and we're just gonna see what works, and I'm going to get back into the routine of planting. One thing about what's calling me to put a garden in is I can remember as a kid my dad taking a lawn chair and taking it into the garden and literally sitting in the middle of the garden, and he would sit there and tell me that he was out there listening to the garden grow all the time. And so I feel like now that I don't live in town and I have the space to put in a garden, I just think that it's what I'm being called to do. So we're going to see what works this season, and then as the time goes by, we'll see what we're gonna do in the future. So this is one of my garden beds, and I didn't realize how hard it is to plant seeds seed by seed. So there's a lot of things in here, like right in here, that's all gonna have to be thinned out eventually. But we have little baby tomatoes over here, and then these are carrots, I do believe, and these are lettuces in here. And you can see, let me come back around here. You can see that these little baby lettuces will need to be thinned out. But I'm gonna wait until they're grown a little bit before I start moving anything around. We got broccolis and cauliflowers and cabbages in here in this bed, I believe. Now it's been a little while ago and I didn't make a map of what I planted where, so that's a problem. But all of those are tomatoes, and we put up this trellis. Let me see if I can get a good shot of that. We put up this trellis here. Two of these beds have trellises over top. One side is for these tomatoes over here, and this actually is more broccoli, cabbages, and things like that. But this was the first trellis that I had put up, and I hadn't decided whether or not I was gonna trellis this side. So I don't actually have anything that's gonna trellis on this side until, you know, I may go ahead and replant cucumbers here after these are done. Hopefully I can get 2 rounds of cucumbers in. And I probably will be able to get 2 rounds of these hardier vegetables here, but I will probably move them to the center when I go to replant. So there's that, and these are all my little cucumbers coming up. These things have only been in the ground, I would say, it's now the Friday before Memorial Weekend, so it's been about 3 weeks that all of these things have been in the ground. My potatoes, which I will show you here directly, have been in the ground for a little bit longer. I planted those first. So they're quite a bit bigger. But there are my little cucumbers. A couple spots here where my cucumbers didn't come up, but I think that there's plenty. I'm just gonna have them, when they get tall enough, I'm gonna have them come up over the top of this trellis here. And then in this one, here are all my beans getting ready to, beans really grow fast, I think, or at least I don't remember how quickly things grow. I don't remember the process, but these are my beans, and they're getting ready to take off to the point where they're getting ready to start climbing, and then will turn purple. So that's the deal on that. And then over here into this little beauty, we have The only thing inside this bed that's supposed to be in this bed is watermelons and cantaloupes. Now, I think these are wild, like wild strawberry plants, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But the only thing in here is the watermelons and the cantaloupes. I seen something the other day that I wanted to show you, but maybe it wasn't in this bed. Nope, I guess not. Oh, you can see here that that watermelon seed is still attached to that leaf. Barely, I just plucked that off of there. How funny. So there is that bed. And then over here in this big boy is my potatoes. And I have Yukon Golds in here and I have Reds in here. I tend to like to eat the potatoes that you don't have to peel so much. So that is what's going on here, and they're doing really well, as you can see. They're just taking off and doing their thing. And then in this bed is strawberries, and I feel like my strawberries aren't taking off. I planted these strawberries when I planted the potatoes, and the roots, I bought these dormant roots and they're in there, but they're just not taking off. You can see some coming up. And I'm not even sure that is a strawberry. That is a definite strawberry. You can tell by the leaves there. So I don't know if I'm going to go ahead. I had bought some, like a hanging basket of everbearing strawberries from the Mennonite store, which I will show you here directly. What up, girl? What are you doing? You prancing? That I bought at the Mennonite store that is doing awfully well, and it's sitting on my front porch, which I'm going to show you here directly. But I don't see enough progress in here. I think I'll replant those, the strawberry plants that I have on my front porch, into this bed eventually after the strawberry plant stops producing berries, because there's already, I ate a berry off there this morning and it was so good. So I'm not sure. Somebody in the comments let me know, like, how long does a dormant root take to come up for strawberries? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Might have done something wrong for all I know. Okay, so I stopped real quick, had to go pick up the kids from school, their last day of school. So it's a little bit in the afternoon, a little bit, and I just wanted to share with you guys. This peony has seen better days, I'm sure. I didn't do anything with this peony, I just let it bloom. This whole situation, this little flower bed situation that the gal before me had here, is all gonna come out. We're actually gonna put a flagpole here, and then of course I'll do like a small little like flower bed around the flagpole. But these peonies, I have a feeling, have never been pruned. So what I'm going to do with these, I'm just gonna let them do their thing, and this fall, after they have died down, I'm gonna prune them all, and then I'm going to create a flower bed here, and I'm going to plant these peonies all along in that flower bed that I put there. But I'm going to just let them do their thing. You can see we just got a bunch of rain. Like this guy here is kind of snapped, and they were gorgeous when they first started blooming, and there's still plenty of blooms on it left, but you can see all the petals on the ground. And I believe it's because she never pruned this plant, and so they have gotten out of control, and they've gotten too leggy, I believe. So I'm going to just let them bloom and do their thing, and then I'm going to prune them back and transplant them in a new flower bed that I'm going to put over there on the side of the house. I think these are daffodils or something. I'm not sure what that is. And these are, of course, I think are them little flowers that, you know, the plants come out, look really alive, the plants die down, and like in June they'll shoot up. Surprise lilies, I think, is what these are. I won't probably keep these. I'll probably just compost those and call it good. And then I think that's a Japanese something or another. I may or may not keep it. I haven't decided. But I'm going to be taking this whole entire thing out. And like I said, putting a flagpole with a flower bed here and moving these peonies back to that area. It does me no good to prune those peonies now, because if I take all the blooms off, then that'll be it. We might as well have something to look pretty in the meantime. Like I said, there's still lots of blooms there left on that to enjoy in the next upcoming weeks. This here is some tomato plants that I have in pots that I need to put out in the garden beds. These here are cherries, and this is in like buckets, but these are early birds, and you can see down here how lovely they are coming along. There's quite a few on there. They just really started popping out. But I feel like we need to get these out of the buckets, which hopefully I can go ahead and take care of that this weekend, as well as this one here. They're doing really well. Like, there's tomatoes all over the place. And on these cherries, the cherries are starting to come up. I mean, the blooms are starting to pop out on these cherries. These have been in here for a while. And these cherries I had got at the Mennonite store. And they're probably 3 times the size as when I bought them. And the blooms are getting ready to fall off, so we'll start seeing some tomatoes there as well. And then this whole bed is nothing but cosmos. There was shrubs in this entire bed, but cosmos are probably my most favorite flower. So I just took seeds and put them in this bed all the way down, and I'm going to just let nature do its thing. You can see how long it is. If I pan out, that's all cosmos, except for at the end I have some hyacinths that were left here. But they are getting ready to come into bloom. I'm pretty pumped about it. So all these are cosmos, different varieties of cosmos, by the way. There's some petite ones, there's some big ones, as you can tell. Don't mind the weeds. We got to take care of some of that this weekend as well. And we have this one hosta. In this bed previously there was a whole bunch of shrubs and then some random hostas in between it. And I dug this whole bed out and changed the dirt, put the dirt that was in here into compost, the whole 9 yards. And this hosta has decided that we must not have gotten all of the bulb out because it's coming back. And I've decided that I'm gonna leave it in there because it decided it wanted to be a survivor and stay there. So we are just gonna leave her in there. And then the majority of, there might be, I think that this is maybe bee balm or geranium or something. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it in there, wait till it blooms. It's got some blooms on it, and see what that is. I know I didn't plant anything else in here, so I know that it's not a cosmo, you know what I mean? And I'm not sure what this guy is either. And then there's some amaranth that has made its way into this bed, and I'll be pulling that out. I think that's what all of these little things are here. And then I have like 6 hyacinths that were here. Actually, there's 8. There's 2 more down here. And those were here previously, so I'm just letting them die back. I may end up transplanting those in the fall as well. We'll see. And then I just have some lilies sitting here on my porch. 2 different ones that I had gotten from my kids the other day. And you can see that they're starting to shed and lose their blooms. I really need to go through. This one I have deadheaded. These are orange lilies, and that's like a magenta color lily, so we'll get those transplanted. But I find out here where we live, we have like a good layer of soil. We need to cut the grass. We have a good layer of soil, and then underneath that is clay. So I have tried to transplant a couple things from pots into the ground, and every time I do that, my flowers seem to die off. Now, they've all been ones that will come back the next year, so I'm hoping that once I plant those, they'll survive. But I had a hydrangea sitting right in here, and as soon as it was gorgeous, everything, I planted it right there because I would like the bush to get really big here. And you can see that there's damage done there. Now, I don't know if the dogs are peeing on it or what, but there's that. So this flower bed was here before. And again, I did the same thing as the other bed where I dug it all up. There was like old, rotted and dead bushes in here, like shrubs in here. So I took everything out, took all the dirt out, put it in the compost, put new dirt in, and we are starting to see some things come up. A lot of the things that I planted have washed away because this gutter right here we had just put on. Whenever I put the seeds in the ground, I didn't realize that there wasn't a gutter there until after the rain that we get here in Missouri sometimes can be pretty horrendous. So it washed away half of the seeds. We got a really good rainstorm about 3 days later after I planted those seeds, and it washed away a lot of those seeds. So I'm gonna have to go back through here and weed all of this and replant seeds. I planted a lot of daisies, and you can see that I can't see any daisies coming up. All the bare spots in here was daisies. So I mixed this section here with cosmos. These are all cosmos, and I mixed daisies in with that. Daisies are another one of my favorites, and I don't see a single daisy that's coming up in here at all. Let's see if I can zoom you back here. I put hollyhocks back at the back here. Okay, so back here I have some hollyhocks that I started from seed. There's some foxglove back there. There's all kinds of stuff back there that I don't remember what I planted. And they're taking a little bit longer than, say, the cosmos to come up. So I'm just going to let that ride for a little while. Eventually I would like this whole section here, that whole back section there, to be hollyhocks and foxgloves and things like that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, what takes off, what doesn't. And again, there's a whole bunch of cosmos in here. We got some zinnias starting to do their thing. I'm pretty sure they planted way more zinnias than what I can see. I mean, there's several, there's babies still coming out throughout here. But I think, I mean, I'm pretty sure I planted in this area here a whole packet of zinnias, so, or two probably. Basically, when I planted this, I planted everything from seed, and we are, like, I'm one of those people who like to plant my flowers for the most part. There are flowers that I have in bulbs that I will continue to plant, but for most part, because of the circumstances and this being the first spring that we've been in this house, I kind of wanted, especially cosmos and daisies and zinnias, because they're my most favorite, but I'm kind of just going to let these things go to seed, and whatever comes back will come back. I know the zinnias will come back. Certain types of the cosmos that I got will come back. There are some annual cosmos mixed in here with the rest of these, but there are some perennials as well. So we'll see what comes back. You can see here I got a couple. Just look how pretty this guy is. See, isn't that just the prettiest? This is the reason. This is a petite Cosmo, I believe, and she is just looking divine. Most of everything of what I plant is usually like pinks and maybe blues. There might be some purples and some whites throughout here as well. We'll see when they come up. And then all of this area here is where the majority of the seeds got washed out. So a lot of this here is weeds, and as you can see, I've been working on weeding this. You can see how many weeds was actually in this. So we will see the cat. Also, we have a cat running around, and it also gets in here and messes. You can see that Cosmo laying flat that way. It's because the cat was in here. I have to chase them down. I put bee balm in here, but I don't see any bee balm coming up. We do live in the middle of the woods, so we will have deer and things like that. So I wanted the bee balm because they kind of will stay out of the garden. If you plant stuff like that, they won't eat it. Got a little bit of this. I think this is chamomile coming up. I think there's a bunch of like German chamomile in here. I did plant, I think, chamomile. Who's to say? Nobody knows. But there's a bunch of it. You can see all the amaranth in here. I'm gonna pull all of that out. This is a bulb. This one and that one, but I don't remember what it is. So we'll wait and see what comes of that. And then I think that is also a different type of chamomile right there. And I'm not sure what this little beauty is. This might actually be bee balm now that I'm looking at it. I'm not 100% sure. Again, I can't remember. When they're this little, I can't tell what they are yet. And then we have, I believe that is a hollyhock as well. And I think I have geraniums in here as well. I'm not sure what this guy is. Somebody in the comments let me know what that guy is. Is this a weed? Should I take it out? It looks like a tomato. It also looks like a carrot. So let me know. I don't want to pull it because if it flowers, it'll flower. But I can't say for certain what that is. Say I have another one here and another one here. I feel like because I have like sporadically have these pulled out like that, that it is a flower of some sort, but it may not be. But because I planted, what happened was I came and planted this long row, okay, and then I planted a row in front of it, okay, and when the rain gutter came down, it hit right here in the center. You can see where the rain from, you know, the massive amount of rain that we had has messed that up. And you see there I have a random zinnia there. I think all of my seeds just got swished around, and the ones that landed, and the other ones that didn't land. And then eventually I'm gonna come through here and place brick. I have this garden border here, but I'm not a fan of it. I'm back and forth between like landscaping ties and like maybe wrought iron gate through here in the front of this flower bed here, but you can see it's a massive flower bed. Let me see if I can't back up some so you can see how huge it is. It runs all the way from this end of the house down here, that's the end of the house, all the way down into the little cubby and then to the front porch here. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna line this with yet. I haven't made that decision, but when I make it, you'll be the first one to know. Okay, and so another little flower bed that we have here at the house that was already here, and this is actually in the back of my house. The pool is like behind me, and I just wanted to have something here, so I have some lemongrass back there. Kind of hard to see maybe in this light. Let me see if I can change this light somehow. Is that better? Is that a better situation? So I have lemongrass back there, and I bought all these plants from the Mennonite store. This is lemon balm all throughout here, and then I just have a little bit of rosemary, hopefully maybe to keep down on the mosquitoes. I plan on taking those irises that are out in front in the pots and placing them throughout here as well. So that's what we'll do with this area. Okay, so that wraps it up. There is another little section out in the backyard that my mom and the kids planted just to have something to do one weekend. But the dogs are back there right now, and I'm not gonna take you back there because then they'll just be barking and carrying on and trying to love on me and Nobody needs that, okay? So back here is the shop, and we have a pond which is way far down there. Eventually, maybe as we get to that section where we're going to put a path down to the pond, we're gonna put a path and railroad ties and steps because it's kind of like down a hill. We will plant along the side of that, going down to the pond, and eventually we'll share all that stuff with you, I think. I hope you guys don't mind seeing some kind of new content from me, because it's just the season of life that I'm in right now. We're just focused on getting our house remodeled, getting the gardens in, the flower gardens, and it's a work in progress. Gardening has always been a work in progress, and I feel like I'm just being called to garden. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I just am. I think it just brings me back to, you know, whenever I was a kid, and you know, it just reminds me of my dad, my grandma, who is also gone now. She's been gone for 10 years or so, but it just brings me back to that time that I just feel closer to them, and I just feel like it's something that I should be doing. And I also really enjoy it. As a kid, when you're working in the garden and you have like all other things to do, it kind of wears on you and you kind of just don't want to garden. But for some reason, it's something that I said I would never do, I'm doing once again. I find that the things as a kid or younger adult in my 20s that I said I'd never do, I find myself constantly doing those things. So I'm just gonna allow myself to have a ton of grace when it comes to this garden season, and try to get back to our normal memory of what I'm supposed to be doing in a garden. I'm kind of really just winging it this year, and we're gonna see where that goes. But I wanted to document this, and I wanted it to be on camera so that next year I can see the growth of the gardens that we'll have by next year. We've done quite a bit this year, and we'll just continually add as we go along, which is ultimately really what you're supposed to do, I think. So always a work in progress. So I'm just gonna have a ton of grace with myself this year, as well as outside of the garden as well. I've really been struggling just a little bit with my oldest son graduating from high school, and I've just been working on having a lot of grace for myself throughout the course of the last couple of months, letting a child go, and you know, he's getting ready to go to college. He's went on a trip to Colorado with a group of his friends all by themselves, and I'm just been on the struggle bus recently with that, so I haven't been filming, and we've really just been busy. We have a lot of remodeling to do in this house that we bought. It is out in the middle of nowhere, so there's that. You can hear the wind blowing. I feel like it's getting ready to rain, so I'm gonna wrap it up. I hope you guys are interested and you guys come along with me on this journey of my gardening, and we will see you guys in the next video. But until then, if you have a garden, sit out and listen to that garden grow, and don't forget to just give yourself some grace.